welcome and good morning, everyone. How are you doing? Man, it is so good to be back with you here at Discovery Church. It's exciting. Some of you may know me. I've been here a few times. If you don't, basically what you need to know is I'm a nerd. So there you go. I love baseball, I love reading, and I love sitting in a chair. So right there, exactly. That's what I'm talking about. But I'm so excited to be here. And I don't know about you, but I mean, Christmas is almost here. Are you ready for that? Yeah, usually that's about what happens. Like half the crowd's like, yeah, I've been making hot chocolate on the stove for weeks, because it's cold out here, and I've been going with family through lights and Christmas shopping because I'm not a procrastinator, right? Like I've already got the gifts, I'm ready, and I'm ready for people to come in, travel in, or maybe getting ready for your trip out, but you are excited about Christmas and the traditions and everything that's going to happen. And that's some of you, but there's also the other crowd that's like, you know what, I'm not excited. Like, I'm not excited at all because this Christmas is just different. We used to have the traditions, but that's changed this year. And maybe because this is your first Christmas where like the kids are all gone and it's like, oh man, I don't know what this looks like this year. Or maybe it's a Christmas where you don't know what's going to happen in 2019, with your job or what's going on. Are you going to have to move? And you're like, man, I can't even think about Christmas because of what's happening in my life. And that happens. And I think that's why it's important as we've led up to Christmas that we've done this series called All Is Well. And being able to look at a prayer that's a hopeful prayer. One that's been used kind of all over through different churches and even recovery programs that have been able to pray this prayer to give some help, to give some insight, because sometimes we just don't know what to do. So we've been breaking that up into the weeks. And we can go ahead, and I would love for us to read it. It's going to be on the screen. We're going to read the first 3 lines together of what is called the serenity prayer, because isn't that what we're looking for? Some serenity right now. So if you would, it's okay. Go ahead and speak up and say it loud, and we're going to read this. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Now, wouldn't that be amazing if we could connect with that and feel serenity in a time or a season that it may actually for you be hard to come by? And that's what we looked at in week 1. We were trying to see what are the things that I need to accept? What are the things that I can't change? God, help me with those and find serenity. And then last week, we got to look at what are the things that I can. I need to take that step. I need to say, you know what? I need to change this in my life because it's keeping me at a place not connected with others and not connected with God. So what do I do? But then we have to look at that third line. The third line, that's what we're going to hit on today. And basically, that is just this: the wisdom to know the difference. The wisdom to know the difference between it being something I have to accept or something I can change. But how do we do that? And what I do want to let you know that if you missed the first or the second week, go to the Discovery Church website and go and check those out, because I think they were pivotal and important in knowing how to find serenity and finding in a season that may bring some pain or that is there in your life right now, that you can say, you know what, but all is well. But how do we know the difference? How do we make wise decisions? Because all of us, we make decisions all the time, every day, right? I mean, we just do. Do you know the average human makes 35,000 decisions a day? 35,000 a day. One is you're not getting up and walking out right now while I'm talking. So I thank you. I appreciate you made that decision. That's great. Notch that up there. But we do. We make decisions all the time. But how do we make wise ones? Because we've been faced with ones that we haven't made such a good decisions, And we've ended up in a place that we really would rather not. Now, I have to admit, I made a bad decision one time because I didn't follow a sign that was posted. I took it as more of a suggestion than, something that you shouldn't do. And luckily, this was back in the day when we didn't have smartphones, so no one got to make me a YouTube star about it or anything. But I was a student pastor, and I was taking a group of junior high kids to this event. And I was trying to find the closest parking to the hotel as possible. And there was this parking garage. And I thought, the van I'm driving can fit in this parking garage just fine. And it had a sign, don't worry, I read it. It suggested 6'8", all right? We just made it in. So I thought, all right, we're good. We made it through that part of it. The problem is when I made it to the top, I found my parking spot, but it's when I totally got it stuck under the roof in this parking garage, just wedged in. Just boom, I'm there. Backed up the parking, all of that behind me, because I decided to not make a wise decision. I'm wedged in there. And I'm like, I don't even know how to get out, right? So I get some of the students and we take air out of the tires to try to get under, right? And then I'm having them jump on it so it goes like this. I want you to know that van did make it out of that parking garage. And to help with the roof that had been bowed in, I just had those kids get on their back and kick the top of the roof and it popped right back. So I knew you were worried about the van. But sometimes we don't make wise decisions, do we? Sometimes we know what's right. We know what we should do, but we go the other way. And sometimes, you know what, it's silly and we can laugh about it. But sometimes it's really done some damage to ourselves, to others around us, and to even the trajectory of our life. And we have to say, how do I connect? How do I become a person that makes wise decisions? So as we continue to go through this story, this Christmas story that we've been looking at to help us with this serenity prayer, today we're going to look at maybe some unlikely people. And we're going to show a picture of them. Maybe you've seen a picture of them like this. They're sometimes called wise men. They're sometimes called three kings. They're sometimes called magi. Whatever you call them, this is who we're going to look at. And some of you have this set up in your house around maybe like a manger and baby Jesus there, and you have them there. Or maybe at one time in your life, you were in a play and you had to wear a fake beard and you had to act like a wise person. But these are the people we're going to look at because they're faced with a decision. They're faced with this moment in which what are they going to do and who's going to help them. But just to get you caught up, okay, with the entire Christmas story, I want you to check out this video first. All right, watch this.
Came to see Mary. She was doing laundry, and then the angel just appeared and she was really scared. So Gabriel was like, Mary, you're gonna have, I can't say it good. Mary, you're gonna have a baby. You're gonna have a baby and you will call him Jesus. And then Mary was like, I'm not gonna have a baby yet. I'm only a teenager, I'm not married. Then the angel Gabriel told Joseph that Mary is not lying. You are having a new baby. And so they met up. They went to Bethlehem, which was Joseph's old town. They ride a donkey. I don't know. A camel. Oh yeah, a camel. She said, this donkey's fast. They tried to go to a hotel and they asked the keeper for a place to stay. The keeper said, we have no rooms. Literally, no rooms. So Mary and Joseph walked away sadly, but then he said, the only place here in Bethlehem that you can stay is a stable. And then he just pointed the way and they followed. When the shepherds were taking care of the sheep, then they saw angels. The angel said, a new baby is getting born, who is King of the Jews. The angel were singing. us. And then the shepherd said, I think we should go there and meet him. The second, I think, said, yeah, I agree with you. And the other said, yeah, me too. They had to walk through a bunch of grass and bushes, maybe have to camp out a night. And then the wise men heard about it. And then a star appeared.
We should probably follow that star. It's pointing down to the barn.
So maybe we should follow it. Maybe. So the wise men went to Jesus.
They gave them gifts.
A stuffed animal, like a hippo one, to have at home. Some diapers, and some wipes, and some milk, some shoes, some Jordans. Gold ring and Latimer.
And I don't know how it would survive in that barn. Too stinky, too crowded, and ugh.
I think he probably pooped because the room was very smelly. Thank you for coming.
He's adorable.
He's gonna be our best friend. I love you, and you the best baby I ever seen. There, I said it. The new baby is gonna change the world.
So that's kind of what happened in the story. But I wanted to catch you up to speed because we are talking about Mary and Joseph going down to Bethlehem, just like was there. And they're there, and Jesus is born. But then we get connected to a story of these wise men. And they've traveled, they've followed this star to come to this moment to figure out what is going on. And I'm going to read from Matthew. And this is a book of the Bible. It's like a biography of Jesus. And Matthew was a follower of Jesus, walked with him, talked with him, ate meals with him, and then went and followed on and really presented who Jesus was in the first century. And he wrote this down for us so that we could continue to look and study the story of Jesus. And he says this in Matthew 2, and you can follow on the screen. Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea during the reign of King Herod. And we're gonna stop there for a second because King Herod is pretty pivotal to this story. Right now, Rome has taken over Israel and they're in charge, but they have put Herod as the king of the Jewish people. And he's there basically under the authority of Rome, but he feels like king. And if you know anything about history or you like history, again, I'm a nerd, so I like to read about this stuff and who Herod is, but Herod's a bad guy. Herod is very smart. He is a great architect. And you could travel to Israel and other places and you could actually see some of the things that he had built or had, been a part of the planning. And it's amazing. But he is not a good king. He is in it for himself. And as the story continues, about that time, some wise men from the eastern lands arrived in Jerusalem. And I know geography for us in California, sometimes we think everything past San Bernardino is east. Like it would be even further than that, just helping out, Like this, they traveled a long ways to come and see what was going on. So in Jerusalem, they're asking, where is the newborn king of the Jews? We saw his star as it rose, and we have come to worship him. So they've been following the star. They've been journeying. They made it to Jerusalem, and they're asking the question, okay, where is this new king? And he goes on. King Herod was deeply disturbed when he heard this, as was everyone in Jerusalem. He's scared. A new king, that means he won't be king. What's happening? How is there a new king? This is a guy who, just to save himself as being the king, has killed his mother-in-law, has killed one of the wives he said he loves, has killed 3 of his own sons just to protect himself, to stay as king. So he called a meeting of the leading priests and teachers of religious law and asked, where is the Messiah supposed to be born? Okay, where is this king? Where will he be born? Where can I find him? And it continues on. In Bethlehem in Judea, they said, for this is what the prophet wrote. And you, O Bethlehem, in the land of Judah are not the least among the ruling cities of Judah. For a ruler will come from you who will be the shepherd for my people Israel. So they found this. He got people who were smarter than him, had studied some of the scriptures and said, this is where this king will be born. And he continues. Then Herod called for a private meeting with the wise men. So those men that had traveled, he wants a private meeting with them. And he learned from them the time when the star first appeared. And then he told them, go to Bethlehem and search carefully for the child. And when you find him, come back and tell me so that I can go and worship him too. So he says, okay, I want to worship this king. I want to be able to go and visit. So tell me where you find him. Well, after this interview, the wise men went their way, and the star they had seen in the east guided them to Bethlehem. It went ahead of them, and it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw the star, they were filled with joy. Man, they were excited. They followed the star all the way here to the child that they wanted to visit, that would be the king. They entered the house, and they saw the child with his mother, and they bowed down and worshiped him. Then they opened their treasure chest and gave them gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. They wanted to praise this new king. They wanted to honor this new king who was a baby, who was a child. But at this moment, they had to make a decision. They've praised Jesus, they've given the gifts, and now it's time to go home. And will they go back through Jerusalem? Or will they go a different route? Will they make the wise decision, which I guess is what wise men do? When it was time to leave, they returned to their own country by another route. For God had warned them in a dream not to return to Herod. So they made the decision. They knew, okay, if we go back, something's wrong. Herod wants something for himself. I don't think this is the decision we should make, to go back and tell him where Jesus is. We should go a different way. And they did that. And some of that is, it helped because they had a different perspective. And they had some help from God. They had help in this decision making to say, what should I do? What would wisdom tell me to do? And really the foundation of wisdom is God. Now we can be really smart, and I bet some of you, you are brilliant in and of yourself. You are skilled, and it's amazing what you can do with your mind and when you set to do something. But we need not just that, the skill or the mind that we have, but we need a wisdom that goes beyond that God offers and is a foundation of, that will help us in decision making. That when we are faced with that time to say, do we do this or this, we will know what the wise thing is. Because all of us have relationships that maybe we need to make a decision with. Maybe it's a new one and we're like, oh, is this the one? Will I propose? Or maybe it's with a job and you're like, man, okay, what do I do? Or should I say yes or should I say no? What is the wise thing? How do I know? Or maybe it's just conflict that's going on and needing to know, okay, how do I help in this? What do I need to accept? What do I need to change? And how do I guide through this? What is the wise thing to do? And the thing it is about what we can learn from Herod and the wise men is Herod made decisions for Herod. His own pride, his own ego, his own stature, his own good. And unfortunately, when we make decisions that way, we're just trying to keep us as the center or the king of our world. But the wise men, see, they made a decision that wasn't about just them and their stature, but it was about helping another, and they went a different way. See, they were looking for a king, but Herod was looking to be the king. And we have to have that as the foundation of saying someone else is going to be king of our life, not ours, if we are always going to make wise decisions. One, that even in the bad times that are destined to come, we can still say, all is well. All is okay. We will make it through this, and God will grant us the serenity to go through this. Well, there's a psalmist who wrote this that I think is powerful about that foundation of wisdom in Psalm 110. And it goes like this: the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. All who follow his precepts have good understanding. To him belongs eternal praise. Now, just for a second, this isn't like a fear like, oh no, run away, okay? That having that kind of fear of God is not what's being explained here, but an awe of God. Like, have you ever just been out and seen the snow-capped mountains and thought, wow, I'm in awe, that's amazing. Or when you see just big waves come in and you're like, man, that's powerful and it's amazing. Those moments when you can just look and you're like in awe, it's that kind of foundation in the Lord that's the beginning of wisdom, knowing, wow, he is powerful. Wow, he is amazing. Wow, I am in awe. Not of me, but of him. And when we have that as the foundation, we begin to make wise decisions. And what's built also upon that is knowing, as it says there, his precepts. Or what is his teachings? Because how can what he has said before lead us in a good and wise direction? See, that is that beginning of wisdom. Because when we do it on our own, you never know where we're going to end up, right? Because when we rely on our own ability, when we rely on our own mind and decision making and not a foundation with God, we sometimes end up in a bad situation. I mean, kind of like Jack in the Box at 12 o'clock ordering 99-cent tacos, okay? You've been there, see, I know. You end up there. Or maybe even bigger, you end up at a car dealership with a car that you don't need and you can't afford. Or maybe you're looking at a job that just doesn't even really work for who you are. Or maybe you are trying to make a decision about a relationship and leaving it. And God's saying, no, don't. Be on my foundation, not just what you desire, not just what you want, not making you the center or the king of your world, but with me and my foundation. So how do we make those decisions? Because one of my kickbacks, I'm just going to tell you, whenever I read these, I'm like, it's sometimes easy for the wise men to make the right decision because God said, do this, right? Like an angel went to Joseph and an angel went to Mary and an angel, God spoke directly to the wise men. And so, I don't know about you, but I've never had that. I've never had an angel just there. I'd be terrified, I think, just like the scriptures would say, but I'd be terrified, but I've never had that moment. So how do I make a wise decision? How do I know when to accept the things I can't change? How do I know when to change something that I'm doing or about myself that's hindering those around me and disconnecting me from God? Well, a lot of different pastors have talked about this, and one of the most recent, and it's a recommendation as a great book, Mark Batterson, he wrote this book called Whisper, and it's about this connection of hearing from God. Because, as he would say, he'd never had this audible moment where it was just the voice of God. But there's some ways that we can hear, that we can connect, that we can know that we're making a wise decision and how to do that. The first is, and just out of what the wise men knew, as opposed to Herod, is we have to acknowledge that we're not God. We don't have everything known. We don't know all of the outcomes. We can't, in and of ourselves, make every perfect decision. We're not all knowing. And when we can accept that and say, you know what, we are here at a foundation with God to help us, it's the best place to start. The second thing is we have to say, you know what? What has God said about this before? Because what's great is we have 66 different books that are collected of letters and wisdom and history and biographies that are put together that we call the Bible that can help us know what God has said before. To give us some wisdom and insight of people who've made decisions just like we have to make decisions, and what's turned out good and what's turned out bad. So what's there? What has he said before? A third one is, man, what do wise people around you say? Are you connected with a group of people that could speak into your life and say, hey, I've been noticing this, and I want to help you because it may be taking you down the wrong track? What are those people around you saying? Now, not everyone, okay? Not everyone is wise, okay? So it doesn't mean you just listen to every voice that says something to you. But someone that you can look at and say, man, when they make decisions, they seem to have a better view, a better way. Ask them. The fourth thing is, man, does it fit with who you are? Man, you can take all sorts of internet tests, right, about who you are, Enneagram, Myers-Briggs, all of these things to find out all of these just items and perspectives on who you are, the way you think. Now, I don't think God is going to ask you to do something when you're looking at a job, when you're looking at a move, when you're trying to make a decision that is outside of who you're designed to be. If you're not organized, he's probably not calling you to be in a role that you have to be super organized. It just doesn't work that way. Is it who you're designed to be? And the fifth, and I think probably the most simple, is it just wise? Like, is it smart? Should you do that? If you've seen 7 people make this decision before, and it has not ended up being good, don't do it. Be wise in your decision making. And we have to do that with the foundation of God. Because when we do that, when we have wisdom, there's a power in there. There's actually this verse in Proverbs where it says this: joyful is the person who finds wisdom, the one who gains understanding. For wisdom is more profitable than silver, and her wages are better than gold. And I'm going to stop right there. I know some of you are like, hey, I want to test it. You know, like, give me the silver and gold and I'll see if I can figure this out. But the truth is, that won't bring you to true joy. It may bring you something. And a lot of it will probably be heartache. Because if you're not wise without the silver and gold, you're probably not going to be wise with it. And we want to have a joyful and full life. And that comes with wisdom. Not all these things around us that we could purchase or have that fade away. Continues to say, wisdom is more precious than rubies. Nothing you desire can compare with her. She offers you long life in her right hand and riches and honor in her left. She will guide you down delightful paths. All the ways are satisfying. Wisdom is a tree of life to those who embrace her. Happy are those who hold her tightly. See, wisdom is better than anything that this world can offer. Now, wisdom may bring some of those things, but wisdom may not. But that, a joyful and full life, just like Jesus says in John, that I came to bring life and life to the full, that is continued on in wisdom. Honestly, one of the people that I know, like, I can count on to have wise words that's built on a foundation of God, that I see joy in his life, is the guy who was on here before I came up, and that's Chris, your campus lead pastor. Full of wisdom, And you can see that in the joy of his family and himself. And it's an honor to work with someone like that, because I know where the foundation is. So how do we do that? Where do we go? What's our next step? So maybe some of you, you're like, you know what? Someone bribed me to be here, and I don't even know what I think about God. I'm so glad you're here. It's so important that you're here. And I think the Christmas story is for you, that Jesus came. He came to show a way of life, to die for us and be resurrected so we could have that life too. And it's for you. It's for everyone. Man, and I want you to continue to be here and learn more about Jesus. And maybe right now, I want to take that step. I want to accept Jesus. I want to say he's my Lord. I want to follow after his teachings. I want to do that, or I want to learn more about that. And we have connection cards that are there in the seat backs in front of you. Go ahead and fill that out and take that out to the lobby and let us help you with that step. But maybe you've been seeking after God for a long time. Maybe you've spent most of your life trying to seek after God, and you're wondering, okay, now what do I do? Man, get into a community around here. If you're not in a small group, man, you need to be. Because we need others to help us to have wisdom like the wise men. We need others around us to have wisdom that Jesus offers, to bounce ideas by, to be able to talk through, so that we, when put in a moment of saying, do I go this way or do I go this way? Is this something I need to accept, or this is something I need to change? Is this something that will bring pain or something that will bring joy? I need you to help me in that. I've been seeking after God, but now I need you as well to help speak into my life. If you're not in a group, sign up for one. In the new year, you're going to have an opportunity to do that. I promise it'll be one of the best decisions you make for 2019. But we need to take a step in wisdom and continue to ask God. Continue to seek after what he may be saying to you. Continue to seek after what he can reveal and deliver. Because I hear God saying this, and it's going to be on the screen, and I think it's the message that goes throughout the Bible is, if you seek me with all your heart, you will find me. And I think that's so many of our next steps in our spiritual journey of following after Jesus. We're all somewhere. But what is the step that you need to take? And I would like to pray for that. I'd like to pray that God will give you the wisdom to know what that is. The one that's connected to him and helps bring a life of joy. Will you pray with me? Father, we thank you so much for your love and your grace, and saying, man, with Jesus coming here was a demonstration that you loved us all so desperately. That you want us all to be connected to you. That you want us all to have a right relationship with you, but also with others. So I pray that everyone in this room, in the East and the West auditorium, anyone who would be joining later online, that they would take a step, that they would trust your wisdom, that they would see your perspective, to know the things to accept, to know the things to change, and the wisdom to know the difference. In Jesus' name, amen.